The Joker doesn't worry. He doesn't plan 5 steps ahead like a general or cry over things he can't change. His world is chaos, and yet he walks through it like he owns it. Why? Because he has confidence without limits. No fear, no conscience, no need for approval, but here's the twist. That kind of confidence, when it's not rooted in truth, becomes insanity. It looks like freedom, but it's a freefall. Lesson 1. Confidence without wisdom is a wildfire. It spreads fast, burns bright, and destroys. Confidence is generally praised as a positive trait. It's associated with leadership, charisma, and boldness, but confidence without grounding, guidance, or accountability becomes something else entirely. When someone believes in themselves to the point where they no longer listen, evaluate, or reflect, confidence morphs into delusion. It turns inward, feeding itself, separating from reality, and eventually mutating into chaos. This is not confidence in its healthiest form. It becomes a psychological illusion, a kind of internal empire that believes it cannot fall. This is where the concept of confidence without limits begins to unravel. Without principles, humility, or external checks, confidence becomes a vehicle for destruction. Consider a person who believes so strongly in their own decisions that they no longer seek counsel. They do not pause for reflection or question their own impulses. Over time, they stop recognizing boundaries, ethical, emotional, or even legal. They see themselves as the exception to every rule, the master of their own destiny. They may still use the language of strength and leadership, but beneath that is a refusal to submit to truth or correction. The Joker, as a character, embodies this transformation. He acts with total assurance, but without empathy, remorse, or logic. His confidence isn't tied to any external compass. It's severed from consequence. This kind of confidence doesn't produce vision, it manufactures delusion. This phenomenon is not limited to fictional characters. History is filled with individuals who rose through sheer force of belief in themselves, but fell because they could not see beyond their own echo chamber. Confidence gave them momentum, but arrogance destroyed their direction. What was once admirable becomes frightening when it no longer respects limits. This happens when people remove moral weight from their choices. They still act boldly, but now they're driven by impulse rather than insight. In psychology, this can even be connected to narcissism or mania, conditions in which perception of self is inflated far beyond reality. There's a distinct difference between true confidence and unbound confidence. True confidence is secure enough to be questioned. It can be challenged without feeling threatened. It listens, evaluates, and adjusts. It is steady, not just loud. It doesn't rely on being right all the time. It relies on being aligned with something greater than the self. Truth, service, legacy, morality. In contrast, unbound confidence insists on being right, refuses correction, and treats disagreement as a threat. It thrives on domination and self-justification. Eventually, it turns self-destructive. Unbound confidence is often mistaken for strength. In fact, it is a form of spiritual weakness. It cannot endure contradiction, vulnerability, or accountability. It might appear fearless, but it is deeply insecure, always needing to prove itself through action, control, or intensity. That's why it frequently leads to burnout, relationship breakdown, or worse, moral collapse. Because the person believes they can't fail, they eventually do. And the crash is always worse than the climb because it comes with no warning and no prepared exit. The person didn't think it could happen to them. When people let confidence go unchecked, they often frame their downfall as betrayal, injustice, or bad luck. Rarely do they see it as the consequence of their own belief that they were untouchable. But that's what unbound confidence does. It blinds a person to their own flaws while magnifying everyone else's. It makes feedback look like disrespect. It confuses loyalty with silence. It demands applause and sees correction as sabotage. Over time, it pushes away wisdom, truth, and support, leaving the person isolated at the very moment they most need clarity. This is why confidence must be rooted in humility. The most effective leaders and most resilient individuals carry boldness balanced by self-awareness. They ask for feedback. They make room for doubt. They understand their limitations and work in partnership with others or with something greater than themselves to compensate for those limitations. They know confidence is not the same as omnipotence. They draw strength not just from self-belief, but from alignment with timeless principles, and they recognize that unchecked self-reliance is not a virtue, it's a trap. In contrast, when confidence is given limitless permission, it stops being a gift and becomes a liability. It seduces the mind into thinking it is immune to error. It fosters the belief that morality is optional. Eventually, it turns individuals into versions of themselves that no longer resemble anything noble, wise, or good. They become driven but directionless, powerful but unstable, loud but hollow. That is the essence of insanity disguised as confidence. It's not the absence of fear that makes it dangerous. It's the absence of boundaries. True surrender is often misunderstood. To many, it implies weakness, failure, or giving up. But in reality, surrender, when done consciously and with intention, is one of the most powerful psychological and spiritual moves a person can make. It's not a retreat from responsibility, but a shift in how responsibility is carried. It's the decision to release control over outcomes you were never meant to handle alone. It is not about passivity, it is about clarity. In surrender, the individual does not abandon purpose. They align with purpose. Control is exhausting. When someone tries to direct every aspect of life, relationships, careers, timelines, outcomes, they often experience chronic anxiety, burnout, and frustration. This is because no human being can control every variable. Life is filled with uncertainty, with unexpected turns and unseen influences. Trying to grasp tightly to every detail creates internal resistance. The more one attempts to dominate life, the more life pushes back. Surrender, then, is the act of stepping out of the illusion of control and into the flow of something wiser, more stable, and infinitely more capable. This shift is not weakness. It is maturity. It reflects a deep understanding that strength is not always found in resistance. Sometimes it's found in release. A person who surrenders is not one who quits. They are one who trusts. They trust that they are not alone in the process of their life. They believe that even in silence, uncertainty, or pain, there is a guiding structure at work. Whether they name that structure or not is irrelevant to its power. Their internal posture changes from "I must figure everything out" to "I am part of something greater than myself, and I will act from trust rather than fear." When people surrender in this way, something internal recalibrates. Peace begins to replace panic. There's no longer a desperate need to force every solution. Instead of reacting out of fear, they respond out of wisdom. They begin to wait more patiently, listen more carefully, and move more deliberately. They become less attached to immediate results and more attuned to long-term impact. This doesn't mean they become inactive. It means they become intentional. Their actions are infused with calm instead of chaos. Another outcome of true surrender is increased resilience. When someone tries to control life and fails, they often experience a sense of collapse. They feel like they've lost everything because their identity was tied to outcomes. But when a surrendered person encounters failure, they experience it differently. Because their trust wasn't in their control to begin with, failure becomes a teacher rather than a destroyer. They adapt faster, recover stronger, and maintain inner stability even when their external world is shaken. They are rooted not in success but in surrender, which paradoxically becomes their deepest source of strength. Surrender also clarifies focus. When people let go of needing to run everything, they become better at recognizing what is actually within their influence. They stop wasting energy on things they can't change and begin investing energy in things they can: character, decisions, mindset, service, discipline. This kind of clarity allows for more powerful action, not less. Surrender clears the noise and centers a person on what truly matters. It eliminates distraction because no longer are they chasing control. They are embracing purpose. People who live in surrender also experience deeper relationships. Control often breeds manipulation, fear, and conditional love. But surrender opens the door to authenticity, vulnerability, and mutual respect. When someone is no longer trying to control others, they can begin to love them properly. They become less reactive and more compassionate. They understand that they can't force others to grow, to stay, or to change, but they can remain open, consistent, and grounded. This creates space for real connection to grow. Importantly, surrender changes one's inner language. The internal dialogue shifts from "what if everything goes wrong?" to "even if it does, I will not be alone." This quiet confidence creates endurance. It creates the ability to walk through pain without being broken by it, and this endurance is not self-generated. It comes from a deeper source. The surrendered person lives with the unspoken understanding that there is a greater intelligence guiding the process. Even if they don't name it, they sense it. They lean on it, and in doing so, they find peace that defies explanation. In surrender, ambition doesn't disappear, it is purified. It is no longer about ego or proving something. It becomes about service, impact, and alignment. The surrendered person still dreams, still works, still strives, but they are not driven by fear of failure or hunger for control. They are moved by clarity, conviction, and a quiet kind of trust that strengthens them in ways no self-confidence ever could. They may appear calm on the outside, but there is a storm of strength beneath the surface, steady, anchored, and unshakable.